and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Rabbi Siemers, would you like us to stand, to sit? What would you like? Sit. Thank you.
My friends, we're approaching the holiday of Thanksgiving. I wanted to share with you tonight a psalm of thanksgiving that we say every morning in the Jewish service to remind us that the holiday of Thanksgiving is good. It's better to be thankful every day. I'll read it in Hebrew and then I'll read it in English. Mizmor leTodah, Hareru Adonai kol haaretz, yivdu et Adonai b'simcha, bo lefanav tirnina. Baruch Adonai hu Elohim hu asanu, v'lo anachnu amo v'tzon marito. V'hu she'ara b'todah et serotav, v'tila hodulo, baruchu shemo, ki tov Adonai v'elam chasto, v'yador v'ador emunato. A psalm of thanksgiving. Call out to the Lord, everyone on earth. Serve the Lord with gladness. Come before him with joyous song. Know that the Lord is God. It is he who made us and not ourselves. We are his people and the sheep of his flock. Enter his gates with thanksgiving, his courts with praise. Give thanks to him, bless his name, for the Lord is good. His kindness endures forever, and from generation to generation, his faithfulness. And we reflect on the blessings of the season. May it inculcate in each of us a sense of humility, a sense of responsibility, and a sense of joy in our portion. Let us say, Amen.
Thank you, Rabbi Siemers. That was wonderful. Rabbi Siemers is from Temple Israel in Riverhead, and if you haven't been there, they've done a wonderful renovation. It looks fantastic. Really, the inside looks absolutely fantastic. Okay, approval of the minutes, John.
I make a motion on approve the November 1st, 2011 minutes. So moved.
And seconded.
Moved and seconded. Vote, please.
Giglio.
Yes.
Gabrielson.
Yes.
Wooten.
Yes.
Dunleavy.
Yes.
Walter.
Yes.
The minutes are approved.
Reports, yes.
Okay. Under reports, Town Clerk monthly report for October, $9,604.92. Tax receiver, the utility collection report for October, $464,073.89. Building department monthly report for October, $60,907.60. Under fire districts, Riverhead Fire District submitted their 2012 budget summary. Under correspondence, Highway Superintendent George Woodson submitted a letter regarding administrative chargebacks. Riverhead Community Awareness Program, which we call CAP, submitted a letter requesting funds from the CDBG to help support their substance abuse prevention programs in Riverhead schools. Riverhead Neighborhood Preservation Coalition submitted a letter articulating the disconnect between the vision for Wading River and the current zoning. And that's it.
Okay, thank you. Any committee reports?
No, we got the bonfire, but that'll be the next meeting, December 10th.
Cool.
I'd like to say the Landmarks Preservation was successful in working with the community agency, Riverhead Building Supply, and also Wayne Kogel, who owns a paint store, to donate paints and supplies to restore one of the historic structures from 1860 post Civil War. It's a beautiful house, and instead of putting up vinyl siding, they were able to restore the existing wood structure and all of the beautiful trim around the house, and that will help with downtown revitalization and also increase property values in the downtown area. So I want to thank Riverhead Building Supply, the Landmarks Preservation Committee for their efforts, and Mr. Kogel, who donated the paint. And so that's all. Thank you.
I just want to make an announcement that Council Wooten just reminded me that the Lions Welcome Santa Claus River Parade is December 4th at 1 o'clock on Main Street. So bring all the kids down, and they'll have a good time.
Thank you. Thank you. Anybody else? All right. We have one public hearing. Welcome aboard, Mr. Bill McQuaid Duffy. William McQuaid Duffy. We have one public hearing, and this is consideration of a local law scheduled for 7:05, and that time having arrived. It's a consideration of a local law to amend Chapter 52 of the Riverhead Town Code entitled Building Construction, 52-10F, Building Permit Fees, Residential or Commercial Energy Conservation Devices. Jody, is this your statute?
It is, and this was a result of Suffolk County Energy Committee for alternative energy sources, and solar panels are important. The committee felt, the committee is comprised of elected officials, Suffolk County planning officials, several energy contractors, and it was a long work in progress, but this is the final result, and we believe that it will help to fast track applications for people that are interested in putting solar panels on their homes in order to conserve energy consumption and to hopefully reduce their electric bills.
Okay, thank you. Good work. Does anybody wish to be heard on this?
And we get $15,000 from LIPA if we adopt it before December 31st, so.
There you go. What is...
That's a good incentive.
Friday. Does anybody wish to be heard on this statute? No, okay. Well, we'll close the public comment portion and leave it open to written comment. The 25th is Friday, so Saturday, 26th, 27th, 28th, Diane, is a Monday? November 28th?
Let's see.
Who's got their calendar out?
I think you're right. Yeah, Wednesday is the 30th, yes, you're
Okay,
right. It's
so
the 28th.
we'll leave this open for written comment until November 28th at 4:30 p.m. in the town clerk's office. All right. Does anybody wish to be heard on resolutions? Really? Hey, Sal, how you doing?
Sal Mastropolo, Calverton.
How you doing, Sal? We visited Sal at his house. He didn't want to come see us, but we made him get up. It was good.
8:30.
8:30.
First one.
The attachment.
I have it. You're looking for it?
No, I have it. But you can't make heads or tails out of it because there's no from and to.
Right.
When you do budget adjustments, there's supposed to be a from account and a to account.
Where is Bill?
I agree.
Can we call Bill, find out where he is?
I remember at the work session we talked about this, and I know they were staying within the line. Sometimes-
I questioned this earlier
Yeah,
today via
right.
email because I wanted to know where the money was coming from, where 75,000 was coming from in order to.
Oh, I know where it's coming from. I know where it's coming from, if that's the question.
Well, this shows where it's going to.
Right, and I
I
know
guess
where
the-
it's coming from. So is that your question, where is it coming from?
Well, that's one of them, but the other one is, I mean, from a resolution point of view, don't you have to document where it's coming from and where it's going to for historical purposes? I mean, you just can't move money into an account and not say where it's coming from in the resolution.
And then the bottom line where it shows transfer to debt service, it doesn't show any expenditures. So how do we know that we're?
Well, you talked to him, what was his response to that? I mean, I
Well-
know what it is, and I understand what you're saying.
I got this after I just spoke to him.
The from is, there was roughly about $300,000. We were planning to sell bond anticipation notes last year. Because the town has been lending money to the capital fund for a long time, since 2008. And we managed to get out of selling the bond, and we managed to skate through to the end of the year, this year, without selling the bond anticipation notes. So there was additional revenues of about $300,000 within the budget. That's the from. The to is to all these different accounts.
Do You guys are satisfied with it.
I mean, I know
it
what
doesn't
it is.
seem right.
If the board wants to.
Well, going over this with him, I know the Excel spreadsheet's a lot larger than this. There is a couple columns that are not on this paper, which shows you where they went to. But
If the board's inclined, we'll table it. It's not time, well,
Is this where it's coming from? This year?
Let me give you something to think about. If
I
a
would
year
like to
from
table
now
it,
this comes up in
if
an
we
audit,
can.
in a financial audit, how are you going to explain where the money came from?
that's fine. We'll table it. Hey, Bill Rothar's not here, he's supposed to be here. Next.
839. In the first whereas, it says November 19th, and in the first resolved, it says October 1st. They probably copied an old resolution and failed to change the date on the resolved.
Saturday, November 19th.
And then it says October 1st.
I think they had a different, previous event, so they're.
So we're covering the one that they had plus the new one.
What day are they gonna have it?
The resolution has to be, what is the date? Saturday, November 19th. So what we have to do is take the whereas, the first whereas, and substitute the second, put it in for the first resolved. And change it. I don't understand how.
Yeah, I don't know how the holiday, we didn't take that, they used the resolve for the
Yeah,
Chinese.
the times
version.
are also different too in the whereas and the resolve.
That first whereas should be the resolve.
I think it's November 19th.
Right.
This is November 19th.
Yeah, that resolves the whole
And
one.
this, what is it, held?
You're right. That resolve should reflect the whereas. They took an old one from the Chinese auction they held.
Okay, I'm getting ready to table it. If the town, Bill, I'm gonna give this to you and see if you can't try to make heads or tails of it.
Well, what day is,
Oh, it's this
was
Saturday.
October 1st? October 1st was what day of the week? Was that a Saturday? Are we resolving something?
No, I think
It
that
happened on
whoever
October
did it
1st.
was just sloppy.
No, the resolved came off of previous chapter 90 for
Right,
their
and we're
Chinese
just
auction.
sloppy.
This is the new chapter 90 for the holiday fair.
Yeah,
They-
this
and they
is
didn't
what
change
they're
the resolve.
having, this is what has to be changed.
So we want to change it to
So
November.
Bill's going to make it seem right, work right.
Unbelievable.
We're gonna make a resolution for January 1st that somebody's going to sit and read every one of these.
I had the
because-
same complaint.
Sal,
Sal, what
what
are you getting now?
doing?
Go ahead, Sal, what's the,
851.
it'd be worth it to have to pay you to do this.
I know, supervisor
You-
brought
That's
that up.
what you were, weren't you an editor?
No, I had a pubs department.
What's that?
I managed the publications department, so I did a lot of reading.
Right.
851. Is this an after-the-fact resolution?
No.
Because it says published once in the November 10th issue of the News Review. Two questions. One is, well, there's a typo on the second line. It should be the town of Riverhead. But the other question has to do with the statement. What caused the deletion of the first sentence in the purpose, findings, and standards?
I can say that in code revision, it was discussed that if you wanted to build a new house, prohibiting an accessory apartment in a new house was not supporting the idea of a new house being built, and a lot of people are building houses and they're taking their in-laws in to take care of their in-laws rather than putting them into a nursing home or an assisted living, and that's come up on numerous occasions. And the code right now reads that the house has to be 3 years old before you can put an accessory apartment in it, and we didn't think that that was feasible or practical when you're building a new house. If you plan on having an accessory apartment, you should be able to build it when you're building the new house.
Okay.
Bill has corrected the other resolution. Bill, why don't you give this to Diane so she can, we're going to public hearing on it, so it's not an absolute. Our track record is probably 50-50 as to what we adopt after we go to public hearing. Was there something, where was there a typo?
Oh, in the second line.
Of the first page or the second?
No, of the public notice. It's a moot point now because it hit the paper already.
No, I don't think it did. I think that's.
Because this is an authorization to public impose. I think the November 10th date is erroneous. I
Yeah.
think that it's probably this coming Thursday that it's
Well,
going
that's
to.
why the first question I asked was,
It
is
couldn't
this
be in
after
because-
the fact?
It did, no, it did not.
So in other words, the date is
Did
wrong.
not go in the paper, so the date, Diane, what is the date that this would go in the paper?
It will be.
Not Thanksgiving.
23rd. 23rd.
So to make sure you change the date in the public notice then too.
Right, November 23rd. This one doesn't even have a culprit on the bottom that shows us who did this. All right, so we're doing the 23rd on the first and second page, correct? Right. All right,
This also.
Sal, we're offering $10 an hour to proofread.
Sure. This also says that the public hearing will be on the 15th day of November.
I have a question.
We didn't even publish and post it.
What's the date of the public hearing? It can't be November 23rd because you don't have a meeting on November
Now,
23rd.
you know what, this is
Tabling it.
getting tabled.
It's got to be December 6th or
This is
December
getting tabled.
20th.
Tara,
Wait,
I-
is it still the same? Yeah, that's, yeah. You're talking about 851?
It says
Yeah.
that there'll be a public
What
hearing on
happened was, Sean,
tonight.
this was proposed, I believe, at the last work session to be for that last time's meeting.
So all the dates.
So, it just should have been changed. So, the notice needs to be changed to a date, December date, for the hearing,
Right.
right? And
Which is
then the
December
issue
6th.
just needs to be changed to the 23rd.
okay, I need that the employees that draft these things review them,
Again, this was, I think, a repeat.
okay?
That was just put back, you know, that correction you wanted to do in
Right.
the folder, so this shouldn't happen again.
Can we say that it's December 6th at
This would have been
2:05?
the last.
Is that time available? We
I don't think we have anything scheduled. Well,
Okay.
wait a minute.
I don't think it's gonna be a full length.
I don't think so. I don't think there's.
We'll do, if we have two at
If we have
2:05,
two,
it's not
gotta-
gonna be a
yeah.
killer.
I
So
don't
if
think
we
there's
post
anything
on
else.
November 23rd and we put in the paper November 23rd, we can have a hearing on
Yeah, we
December
just,
6th.
right, it'll be the town board meeting on the 6th of December.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yes, yes,
that's enough
there's plenty of
time.
time.
Okay.
Okay. So December 6th at 2:05.
At 2:05.
Okay. What else you got?
854. Just a question. Why are we spending almost $6,000 on security when the gates are open now? And I mean, it's not a locked facility.
We use it to monitor the runways, so anybody that goes up on the runways, the police department monitor them, and other things as well. And what they're doing is they're letting us really in there for free. We've been in there since, I think, 2005 without any contract with them, and the only thing they would want is an additional camera that helps us and it helps them, and then they'll let us continue to have it for free. So it's a small price to pay, and short of this, I would have to have people out there, security out there all the time.
Okay, thank you.
All right, does anybody else wish to be heard? Mr. Romano,
Good evening, Steve Romano, Riverhead, and belated congratulations on your re-elections.
we knocked on your door too. How you doing,
Yes, you
Steve?
did. Could you expand on resolutions 843, 844, and 847?
Jody. 843.
These are all litigation settlements.
Crown Sanitation. I'll do the Crown Sanitation one first. Crown Sanitation has agreed to chip all the wood at the yard waste facility, and they agreed to chip the wood at the yard waste facility right after Hurricane Irene. We put a stipulation of settlement together, and I signed it. In fact, there might even be a signed copy in here. I signed it right away because we needed to get this stuff chipped. And Crown's attorney said, well, we're not getting, even though it's a stipulation of settlement, we'll provide you with insurance, but we're not going to indemnify the town against everything, but we'll give you insurance. So we went back and forth for a long time. And given corporate structures and everything, I think the board is inclined to just take their insurance and not the indemnification. And corporations that have those if you had an accident, lots of times corporations don't exist anyway after the fact. So the agreement has to be changed. The board has to vote on it again because it's a material change to the agreement.
So it wasn't a lawsuit and it's monetary
It's
settlement.
a settlement of a lawsuit. There was a provision of the town code that Crown Sanitation exercised and kind of drove a truck through that allowed them to, for agricultural purposes, dig up a lot of material. And then they transported the material off. They actually had a permit from the town to do it. The town canceled the permit, went into litigation with them because the town said, you're not a farmer, and then they planted trees. And it's one of those cases, shame on the town, and this is a way of just kind of getting it passed. They're paying a fine. This will save the town, Jill's about $40,000, right, in chipping?
We paid $7,000 a shot the last time, I forget how many times, did I do it 4 times that year?
Yeah, maybe it's $30,000, but it's a significant penalty, if you will, but it is what it is.
Okay.
What was the next one, 843?
844, it's another legal action.
This goes, sometimes the settlement amount is so little that if we were to use our Lamb and Barnarski at I think we pay them more than the 175. I think they may be getting 250 or 275. In about 5 hours of litigation, we'll spend more than the settlement. Sometimes you cut your losses.
And this was also a contractual obligation that was just realized.
Well, no, we believe we're right. We believe we win.
Yes.
We believe we win in the case, but we could
it's-
spend $10,000 winning a $1,600 settlement.
Okay, so it was a minor settlement.
$1,600.
And the last one was 847. It looks like another probably legal,
Well, that's a pending lawsuit. And,
pending lawsuit against the chief.
Right,
This is
that's just for indemnification.
indemnification. We indemnify, typically we indemnify the town employees through our town, there's a defense and indemnification provision, I believe, in our town code.
Chapter
It's
52.
recited in the
Okay.
resolution.
And his contract requires it, but the town has never acknowledged this. And this comes from the Field Day series of lawsuits. And it's something that the town should have done 10 years, well, not quite 10 years ago, probably about 7 years ago.
So is the chief being sued personally right now?
Personally, yes.
Are you at liberty to say what he's being
He's-
sued for, or is it a bunch of lawsuits?
Oh, he's being, I don't remember the amount, it's some millions of dollars, but he was acting within the scope of his job title. So he was, trying to protect the town and the residents, and it's sort of an open end, it's a loose end. It should have been tied a long time ago.
Thank you.
So, thank you. Yes, Gio.
Being I was told, George Wilson, Highway Superintendent, told that I couldn't have the,
Yeah, you can read it.
okay. Under Highway Law 141 states that the estimate of expenditures for highway specifies the following: the amount of money necessary to be levied and collected for the repair improvements of highways, the amount of money necessary to be levied and collected for the repair and construction of bridges having a span of 5 feet or more, the amount of money necessary to be levied and collected for the purchase, repair, and custody of certain equipment, tools, implements, and the amount of money necessary to be levied and collected for the removal of obstructions caused by snow and for other miscellaneous purposes. Well, the Highway Law, Section 113, authorizes the town to supplement the monies in the Section 141 accounts by transfers from the town's general fund, and Section 285A authorizes transfers of monies between Section 141 highway accounts having the same tax base, and there is no authority to transfer monies from Section 141 accounts into any other fund or account, i.e. general fund. Highway law requires that only expenditures for the highway purposes may be paid from the highway fund, Highway Law 141. Therefore, it is my position that the expenses of $768,000, such as the charge for town attorneys or accounting or services related to general government, and as general rule, not charged back to the other appropriation or funds. Town Law 202 cited by Mr. Rothar relates to special districts, not the highway fund. Therefore, the Town Law 202 and 202A are exceptions that allow for chargebacks for general government services, town salaries and services. It does not apply to the highway budget. So while the town may choose to charge back a special district, the services of the town attorney has no authority to charge against the highway fund. As a general rule, the only expenditures for this purpose is set forth in Section 141 of the Highway Law are chargeable to the Highway Fund. Administrative expenses of the Highway Department are charges to the general fund and not the other way around. Even though administrative chargebacks have been existed for a number of years, the previous financial advisor never charged an administrative fee to the highway. He only charged to special districts. Even if Mr. Rothar was correct as to the law, I cannot think of a single instance where the Highway Department has used Justice Court this past year or utilized services from Justice Court. And I still have no accounting for the chargebacks or any other chargebacks so that I can determine whether or not the chargeback charges are in fact correct. In closing, I would like to remind the town board that you have already denied my request to float bonds for paving and the purchase of new equipment. The town board is also aware of how short-staffed the highway department is, and that the shortage of employees and proper equipment makes it very difficult to perform the services that the town of Riverhead deserve and pay taxes for. The $768,000 you are attempting to charge back an administrative fee in my 2012 budget would pay for a new sweeper, a new payloader, which would leave me with over $433,000 to hire additional 5 new employees with money left over for paving. This money should remain in part of the highway budget, and it's desperately needed, and the residents of this town deserve no less. Based on the facts that I have presented, I do not believe that any board member in good conscience can approve this budget.
I just want to point out a couple things, Gio. You know that this started in 2008 under Supervisor Cardinelli. There are serious shortfalls in the budget, in the town's general fund budget that has persisted for 10 years or more, but the general fund basically has huge financial problems, and we have cut as much as we possibly can. The system of chargebacks, everybody I ask gives me a different opinion, and some attorneys give me 2 different opinions, the same attorney. We are working with Mr. Rothar and Bob the town attorney Bob Kozakevich, are reaching out to the comptroller's office. East Hampton does this with the highway fund, and East Hampton is watched by the comptroller's office directly. I forget what what they call it, but they're monitored by the comptroller's office, everything that they do. And there were emails back and forth where this was acknowledged in East Hampton by the comptroller's office, not just at the level of Hauppauge, but the level of Albany. The bottom line is, as I said to you, we're going to wean ourselves off of this. It is my goal not to do this next year. My goal is to set this money aside for road paving. See, we have to pay as we go. We cannot continue to keep bonding and bonding and bonding.
I understand that.
So, and you know I talked to you about this.
Just to let you know, the current highway superintendent is going to fight this in East Hampton also.
Okay, and if the comptroller's office turns around, because the alternative is this, the budget deficit this deficit was built into the budget in 2008. I can't correct everything in 2 years.
No, I'm not, otherwise I would be asking you for $2.5 million.
But it could be
$700,000.
corrected. I mean, there is a way to correct it with the tax cap, and I don't necessarily want to do this, but the town board could deliver a 17% or 18% reduction in highway costs, and then increase the general fund by 4%, and as long as it balances out, it would balance out to 2%. The numbers are somewhere in that range. And then the money would stay in the general fund, and the general fund would have the ability to keep the money. That's not my goal to do that. My goal is to figure out somehow how to correct this problem next year and allocate this for you for road resurfacing, so you always have it built in for road resurfacing. As far as buying the new equipment, we can't let you bond more than $250,000. Now you've got to, if you can find out about, you're limited in bonding. I'd love you to get more equipment. But you're limited in bonding. You have my commitment that next year I will work with you. If we're gonna, I'd love to take a lion's share of this $800,000 out. If you ask me for it in writing, I'm giving it to you on tape.
That's even better. Can you take this money out of the reserve? You guys
I
got a
can't, there's
reserve
not enough
fund?
money in the reserve. The long and the short of it is today I met with Moody's. The Moody's, Standard & Poor's gave us a stable financial outlook. Today I spent 3/4 of the day with Moody's, and it was a good meeting, but we are trying to, we're putting forth our best presentation to make sure that they understand that the town can pay back its obligations. And to pull more out of the reserve fund creates an even larger problem, because the town's tapping the reserve fund in this budget $2.6 million. That's down from roughly 5.2, but I can't jump it back up. The residents have given me 2 more years to correct the ship. We're going to correct the ship, but it's
Okay.
not something that I can do. But you have my commitment. I will not do this next year, and this money then will stay. This levy, this ability to levy, will stay in the budget. And you will have 760, you do have to pay your insurance reserve fund. You're behind in your
Well,
insurance.
my whole thing, if this has been taken out of for so many years, why wasn't it used to pay the insurance fund?
Well, because what we do is we just do a percentage, and everybody pays the same percentage. And by the way, did you find out where your vouchers are for taking down those 2 buildings? I know you asked.
We're still, everything's been turned in.
Okay.
It was turned in probably over a month ago, so we're still wondering where that.
That's
those
light
funds are.
years in financial payment times a month.
Well,
My
you asked me
question,
to do something, I do it out of good
My
conscience
question to
that I
Gio-
would be paid in a reasonable amount of time.
You'll get it.
these chargebacks have been going on since 2008?
Yes. And before that,
And what
2007 was.
I realize, and believe me, I read your paper that you saved today, and also a letter you gave a couple weeks ago, and I sort of want to research that more. I sort of agree with you on some of the aspects there, but what's different about this chargeback this year that wasn't last year or the year before, the year before, the year before?
I think the increases, it's what's killing us. You know, I don't mind paying a certain
A little
amount
bit, not much.
per
Well,
year for,
Yeah, I think what the town does for, just for, I'm gonna say,
just, so
percent,
next year,
14%, and it's spread out over a
the
lot.
way it was going, next year could be over $900,000, and I still don't know what I'm getting charged for.
Yeah, I understand,
Oh,
I
no.
agree with you there.
So,
You got it on
if he keeps
tape.
his word, then it won't be, but
I keep my word.
next year's next year.
Well,
I haven't figured out how I'm gonna do it
we'll make
for
sure he
you.
keeps his word, that's what.
Okay.
Well, that's why they're up here. All right, Gio, thank you.
Thanks, Gio. We'll work together, we'll work something out, okay?
All right, thank you. Does anybody wish to be heard on, yes?
Very nice.
I would have let him come up first.
Evening Supervisor, members of the board. First, I'd like to say congratulations on re-election.
Thank you, Mr. Gonzalez.
I really appreciate coming to a town that I grew up in and is farmer-friendly. So I appreciate the work that you guys are doing. I'm concerned about Resolution 846. You guys know that last year I missed a lot of things. I probably was remiss in not paying attention to some of the code amendments. But I'm concerned about the TDR program. And this specific resolution would basically, in our opinion, how can I politely say this, doesn't utilize the TDR program to the fullest the way we envisioned. We're concerned about that this could establish a precedent for other projects that come forward. We would like the town to acknowledge that we need to probably have some discussion about the future of TDRs because of the recession that we're in and land values and all that. And maybe the formula that has been used in the past is not adequate for the times. But this is something, the TDR program was negotiated as part of the master plan update a few years ago with a number of stakeholders. So we are counting on TDR as a mechanism for farmland preservation when developers are required to buy development rights from landowners in order to get certain densities. We want to make sure that that continues and that there is no, let's say, giveaways on densities. That's something that concerns us, and probably we should have some further discussion after this meeting.
I think that's a good idea.
Yeah, I agree with you, Joe, that we should all sit down and look at the whole PDR program and
Yeah.
see where it's headed and what we
Right,
should do
and
there.
obviously, we are respectful of the situation with CPF, lack of money for farmland or open space preservation, the debt that's incurred, and we know the whole thing, and we want to be respectful of that. But we do want to bring it to your attention that we want to make sure the TDR program, the whole thing is upheld.
I agree. I think what we should do is, I'm hoping we push this one forward because we're trying to, let's face it, we're trying to build the tax base to show people we can pay our debt back. But let's sit down. I think it would be a good idea to sit down with you, Lyle, Frank, and try to figure out if we don't have it right, let's get it right.
Fair enough.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And if I could just say one thing also, that the previous approval was after we had eliminated the hallways and the mechanical rooms and things of that nature. The TDR program wasn't based on occupancy, it was based on the total square footage of a hotel. So we felt as a board that that was unfair, and we changed the code to say that you could eliminate those areas because it was kind of like double dipping as far as us asking them to pay for TDRs for common areas that were going to be used by occupants of the hotel, which they were paying the density for. And a new application has been submitted since this approval took place, a brand new application, brand new hotel, brand new floors, brand new rooms, brand new everything. The application is so much different than what was approved previously that the covenants mandated. And I believe Mr. Duffy told me today that state law says that we have to recognize the code as it exists today because this is a new application. Is that correct, Mr. Duffy?
And I didn't come down to give you a hard time or to argue with you guys. All I'm saying is that there's some issues that we would like to
absolutely.
come back to discuss with the board.
Moving forward, we'll
I agree, we have
discuss.
to move forward and and look at the code and make changes where necessary, okay?
Fair enough.
Thank you.
Let's
Thank you.
coordinate a
Thank you.
meeting. I'm sure Lyle's gonna have something to say about it too. Or maybe he's holding up the picture. Hello, Ms. DeVito.
How are you?
Wonderful.
And as others have expressed, congratulations to those of you on your reelection. And I kind of feel left out. You didn't come to my house. Didn't see anybody. My question is on Resolution 833, the fund balance policy. In going through, and I apologize, this is the first time I've actually read the fund balance policy.
It's going to get tabled, by the way.
Okay, then that's all, because it's kind of, there just seems to be, within it, there's not enough content or substance, and also it appears as if the fund balance, whether it be non-spendable, restricted, or unrestricted, or an unrestricted committed, unrestricted assigned, or unassigned, kind of just moves around at the will of the financial administrator.
Well,
And
that's
I'm
the part we're gonna
sort
have
of the
to correct
Gatsby
that, yeah.
54 that I was used to in the school district.
I had a
Those funds
question mark at that.
are very strict there, so.
We fixed it
Okay,
already.
thank you.
Well,
Yeah, we
I was
recognize that.
supposed to read it and get back to everybody, and I didn't do it, so I apologize. So it will be tabled, but it will, Angela, it will have those different restricted, unrestricted, and those titles will be there, but it'll be the board that makes that decision.
Right. Also, the concern of how once those monies are there, it appears currently, as you have it written, that you can actually move from the various funds to as you need.
You will be able to,
various
yes.
funds.
You-
And normally, with reserve funds such as that, Gatsby 54 doesn't really allow for that type of movement. It just seemed by the language as how it's constructed right now. I'm not saying that that's the intent of the board, but it just appears as if that's what's happening.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Wells.
Evening. Lyle Wells, a farmer here in Riverhead. Just a couple of things on Resolution 846. My friend and colleague, Joe Gregilla, made some comments on it, which I agree with 100%. I think we're going overboard in regards to incentivizing the building of a second hotel here in the town of Riverhead. The developer at the time of the original resolution was more than willing to sign the agreement in regards to the number of development credits that would be needed for his second hotel. He exercised all of his permitted floor area in the first hotel. It was a concession on the part of the governing bodies to give him approvals for his second hotel at that time, regardless of the size of the scope of the, he was given approvals for a second hotel, which he wouldn't have been allowed to do without the stipulation that he would have to buy development rights in order to do it. A gift of this size is I think a little bit too much of an incentive, and I guess the main thing that I would ask is that the calculations in your present resolution only include the floor area of the new proposed hotel and not a retroactive look at the existing hotel that has already been built. I believe from the information that I have that the 36 development credits would include a look back at the existing Hilton.
I was not of that impression.
The calculations that we have, were some 50, high 40s to low 50s in regards to the construction of the hotel. All I'm asking is make sure your calculations are correct before you give away too much. That's all.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else wish to be heard on the resolutions? Okay. Diane, I guess we're-
Okay, Resolution 830.
2011 general town budget adjustment, so moved.
We're gonna table this?
Hold on. right, well,
Okay?
Okay, well, we move the table this first one?
First building
You
requirement.
gonna table?
We get a table.
It's only the second building.
Let's make it
So the
easy.
first building, as it exists, did not require any transfer of development rights of farm credit. So it's the second building that's
That
being
pushed them over.
proposed.
Your new legislation took out the unusable areas, so that's what reduces the number.
It's not,
It's not
the
the
other one,
first
nothing to do
building.
with it, even though it's one the
Obviously,
same.
that's the cumulative number is where it starts coming in, but the first building did not require anything.
So the first building was built as of right without any TDR requirements at all, and the second building is what's triggering the TDRs based on the floor area, and we've adopted a code that eliminates hallways because the occupants have to use the hallways, and it's not considered revenue generating space because the revenue is in the rooms themselves.
Unlike other retail centers.
Yeah, but my question is, this was a two-phase from day one, was it not?
Yeah.
So there was always the anticipation there would be a second hotel on that site.
Right.
Yes.
So was part of the approvals for the first hotel based with the TDRs in order to get the second one?
No, the first hotel was built as of right. The calculation.
I realize that.
Yeah, the calculation for 71 TDRs was based on the size of the second hotel.
Second hotel.
In the phase two, that's why they let them build and get the CO for the first hotel, and then the TDRs would kick in when they went to build the second hotel.
Well, as long as this TDRs for only
Yeah,
the
we're not
new
going, we're not
construction.
going back to the first
No.
hotel, this is just for the second hotel.
Okay.
And that's why,
All
that's
right.
where I think the confusion comes. We're not gonna go back to the first. He built that as of right,
Yes,
didn't have to buy any TDRs. What this is for is the second hotel
yes.
that he's building on that property.
Okay.
Okay. That's
We already read a
the way I
resolution.
thought it was.
We had a resolution read.
Okay,
were
now-
we moving the table this, Sean?
we're gonna table this bill,
Yeah, you can table it.
we're gonna table it so he can make it more clear. I know what it is, but Sal's right, it's not clear, so, let's, make a motion to table
I'll
8:30.
Make a motion that we table resolution 8:30, so moved.
I'm gonna second it.
Moved and seconded, vote please.
Giglio.
Yes.
Gabrielson.
Yes.
Wooten. Dunleavy.
Yes.
Walter.
Yes.
The resolution has been tabled. Resolution 831.
I'm gonna move it, but my question is this a ratification? Is this already done?
I didn't vote on it, did we? I don't think we voted on it.
Okay, then, Business Improvement District budget adjustment, so moved.
And seconded.
Moved and seconded, vote please.
Giglio.
Yes.
Gabrielson.
Yes.
Wooten.
Yes.
Dunleavy.
Yes.
Walter.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 832.
Ratifies the approval of the Chapter 90 application of East End Rowing Institute Limited. That was held on Sunday, November 13th, 2011. So moved.
Dan seconded.
Moved and seconded, vote please.
Giglio.
Yes.
Gabrielson.
Yes.
Wooten.
It's a great day, yes.
Dunleavy.
Yes.
Walter.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 833.
I make a motion to table resolution 833.
Second.
So moved.
Moved and seconded, vote please.
Giglio.
Yes.
Gabrielson.
Yes.
Wooten.
Yes.
Dunleavy.
Yes.
Walter.
Yes.
The resolution has been tabled. Resolution 834.
Highway Department budget adjustment, so moved.
And seconded.
Moved and seconded, vote please.
Giglio.
Yes.
Gabrielson.
Yes.
Wooten.
Yes.
Dunleavy.
Yes.
Walter.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 835.
It's appoints a bus driver to the Senior Citizens Program. So moved.
And seconded.
Moved and seconded, vote please.
Giglio.
Yes.
Gabrielson.
Yes.
Wooten.
Yes.
Dunleavy.
Yes.
Walter.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 836.
North Fork Preserve Community Preservation Fund Capital Project. This will be the budget adoption. So moved.
And seconded.
Moved and seconded, vote please.
Giglio.
Yes.
Gabrielson.
Yes.
Wooten.
Yes.
Dunleavy.
Yes.
Walter.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 837.
Rescinds Town Board Resolution Number 829, Riverhead Downtown Waterfront Docks Program Budget Adoption. So moved.
And seconded.
Moved and seconded, vote please.
Giglio.
This is a resolution that was adopted twice for the same budget adjustment, so we're rescinding one of the resolutions so that we only have one on the records. Yes.
Gabrielson.
Yes.
Wooten.
Yes.
Dunleavy.
Yes.
Walter.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 838.
River Sewer District, budget adjustment, so moved.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded, vote please.
Giglio.
Yes.
Gabrielson.
Yes.
Wooten.
Yes.
Dunleavy.
Yes.
Walter.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 839.
This is going to approve a Chapter 90 application of St. John's Evangelist RC Church for their annual holiday fair on November 19th, 2011. So moved.
As amended.
As amended. Corrected and thrown out.
And seconded as amended.
Give it to, moved and seconded as amended. Vote, please.
Giglio.
Yes.
Gabrielson.
Yes.
Wooten.
Yes.
Dunleavy.
Yes.
Walter.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 840.
Riverhead Sewer Treatment Plant Upgrade, Capital Project Budget Adjustment. So moved.
And seconded.
Moved and seconded. Vote, please.
Giglio.
Yes.
Gabrielson.
Yes.
Wooten.
Yes.
Dunleavy.
Yes.
Walter.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 841.
Accepts the resignation of an assistant civil engineer. So moved.
And seconded.
Moved and seconded. Vote, please.
Giglio.
Yes.
Gabrielson.
Yes.
Wooten.
Yes.
Dunleavy.
Yes, I guess I'm the only one that really knew David
Well, I
Carrick when he worked here.
Well, I knew him as a cop. I didn't
You
know him
you knew him growing up.
Did you lock him
But
up
he
or something?
was a good engineer.
Kind of
He went
I know.
on
he's friends with me.
military leave, and he's been there for the past 3 years, and I guess he's gonna stay there. So I wish him all luck in the world. Vote yes.
Walter.
Yes, it's a shame to lose him. I wish that he was coming back. I wish him the best of success at the 106. That's where he works.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 842.
Authorization to publish advertisements for specialty food items for the Town of Riverhead Senior Center. So moved.
I'll second.
Moved and seconded. Vote, please.
Giglio.
Yes.
Gabrielson.
Yes.
Wooten.
Yes.
Dunleavy.
Yes.
Walter.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 843.
This amends Resolution 661 and authorizes the supervisor to execute a settlement agreement with Crown Sanitation. So moved.
George.
And seconded.
Moved and seconded. Vote, please.
Giglio.
Yes.
Gabrielson.
Yes.
Wooten.
Yes.
Dunleavy.
Yes.
Walter.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 844.
Authorize settlement of legal action by Christine Sargent against the Town of Riverhead. So moved.
And seconded.
Moved and seconded. Vote, please.
Giglio.
Yes.
Gabrielson.
Yes.
Wooten.
Yes.
Dunleavy.
Yes.
Walter.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 845.
Authorizes the law offices of Brian A. Andrews, P. LLC to act as special counsel to the Town of Riverhead. So moved.
And seconded.
Moved and seconded. Vote, please.
Giglio.
Yes.
Gabrielson.
Yes.
Wooten.
Yes.
Dunleavy.
Yes.
Walter.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 846.
If I may, just a minor correction. It should be lot 3.1, not 2.0.
Oh, lot 3.1.
Yes. I already gave it to the clerk.
Okay.
Not 2.0?
Not 2.0.
Okay. Thank you.
Resolution authorizing supervisor to execute necessary documents to amend covenant and restrictions filed by Browning Hotel Properties LLC, affecting the property described as section SCTM 0600-118, use of the
Dash
dash 2-3.1.
That is correct.
So moved.
And I'll second.
Moved and seconded. Vote, please.
Giglio.
Yes.
Gabrielson.
Yes.
Wooten.
Yeah, I care a lot about the CDR program, and I'm assured that this is just taking effect on the new construction of the second hotel. So I'll vote yes.
Dunleavy.
I vote yes.
Walter.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 847.
This approves the defense and indemnification for David Hagemeller. So moved.
And seconded.
Moved and seconded. Vote, please.
Giglio.
Yes.
Gabrielson.
Yes.
Wooten.
Yes.
Dunleavy.
Yes.
Walter.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 848.
Approves Zara Plumbing Corp. as drain layer for the Riverhead Sewer District. So moved.
And seconded.
Moved and seconded. Vote, please.
Giglio.
Yes.
Gabrielson.
Yes.
Wooten.
Yes.
Dunleavy.
Yes.
Walter.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 849.
Authorization for East End Arts Council to sublet a portion of leased premises to North Fork Education Initiative. So moved.
And seconded.
Moved and seconded. Vote, please.
Giglio.
Yes.
Gabrielson.
Yes.
Wooten.
Yes.
Dunleavy.
Yes.
Walter.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 850.
Waives the snowmobile application fee for Riverhead Lions Club sponsored Christmas parade. So moved.
I'll second.
Moved and seconded, vote please.
Giglio.
Yes.
Gabrielson.
Yes.
Wooten.
Here comes Santa. Yes.
Dunleavy.
Yes.
Walter.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 851.
This one is amended.
Yes, it authorizes the town clerk to publish and post a public notice to consider a local law to amend Chapter 108 entitled Zoning of the Riverhead Town Code, Article 8, Accessory Apartments, with the correction of November 23rd issue of News Review and the public hearing date of December 6th at 2:05. So moved.
And seconded.
Moved and seconded, vote please.
Giglio.
Yes.
Gabrielson.
Yes.
Wooten.
Yes.
Dunleavy.
Yes.
Walter.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 852.
Authorize the supervisor to execute a traffic signal agreement with Suffolk County at the intersection of County Road 58, Old Country Road, that's at Lowe's driveway, Riverhead. So moved.
And seconded.
Moved and seconded, vote please.
Giglio.
Yes.
Gabrielson.
Yes.
Wooten.
Yes.
Dunleavy.
Yes.
Walter.
Isn't it crazy that we actually have to pay for these lights and everything? This county is just
Breaking us
backwards,
over the coals.
backwards,
Well,
backwards.
we gotta upkeep them. I think
This is
they
a
put 'em
county
in.
road, this is a county traffic light. I'm gonna vote, I vote yes, but we have to
Maintain
maintain
'em.
it
We
and
don't pay for
everything
'em.
else. The county, this county needs to.
But we're getting a
go
lot
away.
of taxes from Lowe's with no IDA credit.
Yeah, well,
They are too.
Yeah, they're getting all the sales tax.
Yeah.
This county form of government
They're
should be
getting their lion's
abolished.
share, trust me.
All right.
And seconded.
Okay, resolution 852 is adopted.
That's why the county taxes are so low, because they put everything on the town.
Yeah, sales tax, most of it.
And does not share the sales tax with the towns.
Doesn't most go to the state?
I think we should do a sense
get is-
resolution abolishing the Suffolk County Legislature and send it to Steve Malone.
Let's do a sit-in.
I mean, we do get a little bit of money for our police department, that's about it.
Could we do that? Would you,
And we
would the
never
board
get-
support a sense resolution to abolish the Suffolk County Legislature and send it to Steve Malone?
I think they would find that quite comical.
They should.
All right, are we ready?
I think it's good.
Can we go?
we
Resolution
go, yes.
853.
Authorizes the law offices of Devitt Spellman Barrett LLP to act as special counsel to the town of Riverhead. So moved.
And seconded.
Moved and seconded, vote please.
Giglio.
Yes.
Gabrielson.
Yes.
Wooten.
Yes.
Dunleavy.
Yeah, this isn't the same resolution we passed before. What this is, we had to pass a resolution for every attorney that's in the building, so he can get paid. So this is for another attorney. I vote yes.
Walter.
Yes. so
Resolution adopted. Resolution 854.
Every outside council.
Authorizes the supervisor to execute a lease agreement with Old Castle Retail Incorporated DBA Bonzo American for the installation of security equipment at FCAL. So moved.
I'll second.
Moved and seconded, vote please.
Giglio.
Yes.
Gabrielson.
Yes.
Wooten.
Yes.
Dunleavy.
Yes.
Walter.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 855.
Authorizes supervisor to release petty cash monies to receiver of taxes. So moved.
And seconded.
Moved and seconded, vote please.
Giglio.
Petty cash in the amount of $200. Yes.
Gabrielson.
Yes.
Wooten.
Yes.
Dunleavy.
Yes.
Walter.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 856.
Authorize extension of time to remit real property taxes for senior citizens receiving aged over 65 exemption pursuant to section 467 of RPTL. So moved.
And seconded.
Moved and seconded, vote please.
Giglio.
Yes.
Gabrielson.
This gives the seniors an extension of 5 business days, and that's the lapse time between the receipt of Social Security checks and the payment, and the deadline for payment of tax on May 31st. It gives them an additional 5 days to cash their checks and pay their bill. Yes.
That's a yes. Okay. Wooten.
Of course.
Dunleavy.
Yes.
Walter.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 857.
Authorizes the town supervisor to execute contract amendment with U.S. Department of the Navy and change order number 1 regarding extension 89 Peconic River Sportsman Club, Riverhead Water District. So moved.
And seconded.
Moved and seconded, vote please.
Giglio.
Yes.
Gabrielson.
Yes.
Wooten.
Yes.
Dunleavy.
Yes.
Walter.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 858.
Pay the bills. So moved.
I'll second.
Moved and seconded, vote please.
Giglio.
Yes.
Gabrielson.
Yes.
Wooten.
Yes.
Dunleavy.
Yes.
Walter.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Now we have
Okay,
a
I would like-
resolution off the floor.
Right, I'd like to take Resolution 859 off the floor.
And
So
second.
moved.
And second.
And second.
Moved and
Okay.
seconded, vote please.
Giglio.
Yes.
Gabrielson.
Yes.
Wooten.
Yes.
Dunleavy.
Yes.
Walter.
Yes.
Resolution 859 is taken off the floor.
And I'd like to read Resolution 859. Authorize town clerk to post and publish the attached notice to bidders to provide and install playground equipment at the Riverhead Community Garden. So moved.
And seconded.
Moved and seconded, vote please.
Giglio.
Yes.
Gabrielson.
Yes.
Wooten.
Yes.
Dunleavy.
Yes.
Walter.
Yes.
Resolution adopted.
What's going on with the way these things are changed around different?
Nope.
The order is different on the resolution, is that the pending?
Okay, now we take public comment on anything that is before the town board or anything you'd like to discuss with the town board.
Okay.
Good evening.
Good evening. Bill Welch, 409 South Jamesport Avenue, Jamesport. I would just like to know what the board is considering at this point in terms of the code definition of breezeway. I know we've been, talking about this for a number of months now. I've given emails and information to some of you and spoken to Mr. Kozakevich about it, and there was supposedly he was doing some research on that, because apparently we're near a decision for the so-called breezeway at Jetted Ayers with planning board this week. So we'd like to know what is the status at this point of that proposed code
I can tell you
change.
it was brought to code revision, and I believe that the code revision committee has agreed that the South Hole definition of breezeway is the definition that the town of Riverhead would like to consider for a public hearing. We have taken into consideration all the breezeway definitions through all the towns, including Brookhaven, and we find South Hole to be the best. So we will be publishing and posting for a public hearing.
Okay, I would agree with you on South Hole. I think that definition is clear.
Yes.
South, yeah, sounds like it's a breezeway.
Yeah, right. And not a connection
Not a
all over the
30-foot
place.
canopy, yeah.
I was thinking of putting my shed, connecting it to the house. But now this wouldn't affect what the planning board is doing with its own considerations, because it's based on the code as it exists at this moment. Am I right about that? Or?
I'm not sure about that.
Yeah,
I
well,
would think so.
the code that exists is the code they have to make a decision based upon until we change it.
Chicken and the egg.
Do we have to, how
That's it.
close are we to having a
I
definition
think
to
we
go?
were looking, wasn't there, they were concerned about some that could affect approvals that were already granted, or had something to do with, I thought that's what Bob was looking at, was supposed to bring to us next week. I thought there was some kind of.
At work session?
No, at code revision. That's where I thought we left it, but I'm sure you could have something by the next meeting if it wasn't published.
Yes.
By the next board meeting. That's what it sounds like.
Okay.
We'll be publishing and posting for a public hearing, so.
All right.
But there's always this catalyst for something. I mean,
Yeah.
but
Yeah, we're
yet you
always
have to wonder if there's
reactive
a-
instead
if
of
there was a reason
proactive,
things
so.
were ordered a certain way in advance of something. So it's really kind of it's a chicken or egg.
Yeah,
but
because
we
we were.
have to
That's
let,
it's got to get out soon. We got to get that.
the
out soon.
planning board act on the code that it is now, correct?
Yes.
Right. Yeah.
I don't know
When was
about-
that drafted?
I don't know if they're gonna be hearing it this Thursday or not.
Because my neighbors and some other people I've talked to are just concerned, this is an end run around the multiple building definition with country inns.
Yeah, it's,
Just connect these two and there you have it, so.
It's amazing that the definition of breezeway has existed in the code for so many years, and, now we're reacting, and we really need to take a look at our code, and when things are brought up, we do react and look at the best alternative and run it by the board members and put it up for a public hearing and invite people in to give their comments on it. So it seems that we're more reactive than proactive, but we're going to move in a different direction in 2012. We're going to be more proactive.
Very good. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Bill.
Mr. Romano.
I'm back, and I was wondering how I was going to broach the subject, but I think Resolution 852 gave me the perfect segue. I get the sense of the board is that you despise or dislike unfunded mandates from whatever level they come. and where, if you had the authority, you would eliminate them. Well, in the town of Riverhead, since I guess 2009, in 2008, the Suffolk County Legislature passed what I would deem a knee-jerk reaction to an isolated incident in Selden where there was no flow at a hydrant at a high elevation because the community had their booster pumps off. They passed a resolution saying that from now on, all private communities should have their hydrants flow tested on an annual basis. That being said, the communities have to spend anywhere from $200 to $300 per hydrant for no cost benefit. When the hydrants are first installed in any of the private communities, the engineer designs it, he has to meet a certain flow, it's tested to the town specification, the engineer approves it. Nothing will change unless the street pressure or the street distribution, which is the Riverhead Water District, changes, or something happens inside the community. That being said, this is a onerous, non-funded mandate. The town fire marshal took what the county said, and most of the towns are doing the same thing because nobody wants to speak up, and I'm here to speak up on behalf of my community. It's a waste of money. I'd rather cut the town a check for $700, $800, and you can use it in a more cost-effective way. It's not protecting anybody. It's not adding any additional safety. If anything, the hydrants could be, and they should be mechanically checked once a year, but anybody could do that. Not only that, there is no certification for the person doing the flow testing. Who knows what the heck they're doing where?
Who do you pay it to?
You pay it to a private contractor who Riverhead will supply a list, or you could go out into the yellow pages wherever you go, and they come in and do this, again, I think a silly test. And
Did we put that in our code? This predates me sitting on the board, but I do remember the case. And I know that we don't.
well, let's put it this way, Sean. The community opened in 2004, and I'm sure there's other condos that opened prior to that. From 2004 to 2009, there was no flow test requirement. When the county passed their, again, knee-jerk reaction law, they've mandated it down to the towns. They didn't give the town any funding. So now the town says, well, we can't afford to send somebody to flow test your hydrant, so you condos, you can flow test the hydrant. If it was serving a purpose, fine, you spend the money, but it's not. I would venture to say 99.9% of the hydrants that are tested throughout Suffolk County that are in the private communities, there's no problem.
Right.
Why are we doing it? It's, again, a law that gets created in a knee-jerk reaction, and I look at it this way. Look how silly this is.
Mm-hmm.
We have 3 hydrants in our community, and one right outside on the public roadway. That hydrant has never been flow tested, as far as I know, probably in 30 years. So why does that hydrant not have to be flow tested, yet the 3 inside the community do?
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah, especially when any new development requires a flow test, and if the flow is
Correct.
not adequate, then you have to put a booster pump in order
Correct.
to provide adequate fire protection.
Let's even go crazier. You flow test it, okay, in this community in Selden. The boosters are on today. Everything's fine. Tomorrow they turn the boosters off. They have the same problem. The law doesn't help anybody. Again, a knee-jerk reaction that I don't think anybody thought it out because they don't have to pay. They're going to create a law, give it to the town. Town's going to turn around and give it to the private communities. Again, I'd rather take the money that we're spending and cut you guys a check because it's, yeah, it's about money, but I'd rather use it for a park or something else than this silly. And not only that, on top of that, it creates rusty water for at least 24 hours in the community. And I don't want to pick on the Riverhead water, but our system is pristine. It's PVC pipe and copper. So the only place we're getting the discolored water is from the old cast iron pipe on Elton Street that we got to drag it in. And on top of that, we get to pay for the thousands of gallons of water that we flush out into the street.
Thank you.
Okay. So I don't know if you can look at it, talk to the fire marshal.
Sure.
We'd be willing to sign off on a certification each year that the hydrants are a good working order. So if the town has to, or the fire marshal has to kind of cover himself, because there probably would be communities that would never look at the hydrants. And we've had one, of course, where somebody comes in, you can't even open a cap on the hydrant. That's another story.
I agree with you. This was a knee-jerk reaction to something that happened up in Selden. And we don't know if the Suffolk County Water Authority flow tests before in the community before it's granted the COs. And I think everybody said they have to protect these people and have these things checked every year.
Well, that was
we
the
floor
theory.
check 'em,
Well, that was the guys. anyway.
before the community gets a certification. So I think that if it works then, and you flush it out, we flush our hydrants out every year, twice a year. And if you flush your hydrants out, that should clean the piping inside out if you open them up and flush them out. So, and then every 2 years, you can have the town come in and just check the flow.
Well, we'd
I
love
think
the
that would be
Riverhead
much
Water
cheaper than what
District to
you guys
do
are
it.
doing now.
Yeah.
We'll
But
have to look
this
into
is an engineering flow test. This isn't just, what's
Yeah,
it?
it's just open it.
You can open a hydrant, and if the water shoots across the road,
That's
you
good.
know you got pretty good fire protection.
I like it.
I mean, if it comes out in a tinkling form, then you know you have a problem.
Right, there you go.
Right,
See?
so,
But I
Steve's
mean,
the Suffolk
I
County
live
Water
in
Authority guy,
a
so he knows.
community, we have only 2 hydrants in the whole community.
That whole
and we
community
should
has
have 5.
2 hydrants?
2 hydrants. We should have 5 hydrants. But that's the way they got their COs and approval, is for this. Now, the communities are having more hydrants. So, I mean, yes, I think everything we have to look into, and I think our fire marshal should have a schedule to go out and to check.
Well, it's probably an engineer that you hire to do this.
And of course, that he
well,
would
that's,
build
you
private
could
community.
get an engineer, you could get a master plumber, or you could get these companies they just call hydrant certification companies. And nobody, you don't know what their certification is, but they do the test,
They get paid though.
and they get paid, and they're very happy to do it for you.
I'm sure they are.
That being said, just think about it. I said, I would sign off if, again, on a certification that the hydrants work.
Sounds like a good part-time job for you.
I don't want, I'm out of the water business.
That's all right.
Yeah.
So you run it all the time. You always run past those hydrants.
All right, thanks.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Good evening.
Good evening. Oops, excuse me. Dominique Mendez, Riverhead Neighborhood Preservation Coalition.
Hi, Dominic.
Hi, Jim. So, wanted to also address the Hawkins issue. So you mentioned that we have been, and to remind you guys, we have been bringing this issue up, and spoken to actually, I think, every one of you, except maybe you, John. I'm not sure if we did mention it to you. Or I didn't at least, the faulty breezeway definition since July, and it's great that now you're talking about finally addressing it. And I have a question about that, which is if you address it after the fact, because as we know, it's hasn't really gone anywhere, and just so happens that this Thursday the planning board has a resolution to approve this breezeway. So if you change the breezeway definition after I call it the faux breezeway, the make-believe breezeway is approved, and then they submit a second site plan because they have admitted to Landmarks and Preservation Committee that the plan is to have 6 rooms on the top floor, and a dining room on the bottom floor. And and they're checking with the health department if this path with the covered plexiglass that's 100-foot long with the open sides, if that can be used to transport food. So if that site plan that they've already said that that's what this breezeway is about, if they submit that site plan after you've changed the breezeway, am I correct that would prevent them from using that definition, since it would have been changed from considering a barn and a country inn one structure?
Well, I think that the site plan approval, all of our site plans that are issued throughout the town can be issued without health department approval, so I don't know that they have to come back to the planning board after they get health department approval. I think the site plan approval from the planning board that gives them approval to build what they want to build, and then they go to the health department. They can't get a building permit until they get their health department approval, but the planning board, Bill, am I correct in saying this?
That's not what I was saying at all, though.
Oh, okay.
No,
They need a green stamp from the health department before a
They get a building
building.
permit.
the building
right. They
department
haven't
will
even
do it.
submitted that. What they've done is they've divided the site plan into 2 chunks so that they can get it passed and avoid that 2-building requirement. The breezeway, they've admitted, is so to connect the barn and the inn, so that they can expand and get around that It has to be in one building. We all know the country inn has to be in one building. We've discussed that definition before.
That was changed in 2009, I think, where it said that it had to be in a principal building. It used to say and/or buildings.
No.
But I think it was changed.
No.
Was it changed?
No, that's not.
Yeah. The
Yeah, it
country
was.
inn definition was changed in exactly the same fashion you're talking about. When Kenny Barra built his country inn, the town board came in and changed it to make it the country inn definition we have now.
Yeah, it used
Right.
to say building and/or buildings. Now it says building.
Yeah, I don't remember.
Well, many, many years ago, maybe, but there was an attempt to change it and/or buildings recently, which didn't go forward.
Right,
The
it
Jedediah
didn't-
because the Jedediah
absolutely.
Hawkins wanted to expand. We all
But at that time, the definition of breezeway was not brought up, and had it been, then it would have been addressed at the same time.
there was no knowledge that they were going to try to use a breezeway to get around the definition. We didn't know that, and we don't look into every single definition in the code constantly. I mean, we don't get paid at all to do this. So, so the question, it's not. They haven't yet submitted that site plan. They're segmenting. They're separating the site plans. So instead of putting the breezeway site plan in with what it's for, which is to attach the two buildings, so that we can call it one building. Right? And so that they could put, which they said, 6 rooms in the top floor and a dining room on the bottom floor. That's the whole purpose of that site plan, the
Right, and
breezeway.
if
So
they-
when the second site
But
plan
wait a
comes
minute,
in,
if
which they've
they-
told
wait,
you.
You have to stop there for a minute, because if they get their building permit for that and breezeway and start constructing that breezeway.
Just the
they'll-
breezeway.
They'll be invested in that. As long
Definition?
As they start the construction. Well, they'll have the building permit and they'll start the construction.
Not questioning whether they can build that long path covered with plexiglass, open roof, and timbers. It's 150 foot long with a road going through it, which is not a breezeway by anyone else's definition. Not questioning whether once it gets approved if they can build that. I'm questioning when they put that second site plan in, because they've divided the site plan into 2 instead of 1. The second site plan that they say that they're going to put in for the 6 rooms to convert the barn, why would it then, if the breezeway definition has been changed?
But they wouldn't be asking for a breezeway, because once you have your building permit and you start the construction, you're
Right.
vested in it. So if they did nothing with the building and just built the breezeway, they would have that breezeway.
Yes.
If they built, got the building permit, started the construction, vested in the permit, and then wanted to build what you're saying they want to build, and I don't know that they want to build.
They said it at Landmarks and
They
Preservation.
would still be vested in the breezeway.
Yes, but does that mean that since the old definition would
They'd
have...
be vested under the old definition.
So because this board hasn't acted in 4 months and it's changing on Thursday, that something that you would be addressing
I don't
having...
know that the board perceived that there was some huge problem here.
Jim?
Yeah, and I don't even know when the
Say
application.
that
That's-
I've had people,
We did put it before the code.
I've had
revision.
people
Yeah.
in
I
the
don't know the date of
civic
that.
organization
in
of
August.
the local community tell us that, this might not be a bad thing to do. So I don't know that there's this public outcry about this.
In August, the Code Revision Committee talked to Kazakevich and charged him with looking into this. And we have followed up multiple times, and each time he said he hasn't
But
done
what I'm
anything.
saying to you is, I don't know, as I said, I had people from the Jamesport Civic Association, we talked about this, and I'm not gonna put anybody on the spot about it, but it didn't seem like they had a problem with it. In fact, they thought this might be a good way to handle a bad situation. So I don't know that there was a public outcry that we were supposed to change breezeway definitions or anything else.
But is this,
And I
is this a
understand that the,
breezeway
I
to
think
you?
I gave that to you, didn't I?
Yes, is this a breezeway though, to you? It's 150 foot long.
Maybe under our
There's a
code.
road going through it.
Under our code, it is.
Right, but nowhere else probably in the world is this
My
considered a
understanding-
breezeway
my
except in
understanding
Riverhead.
that they
Oh, that's
had
the
meetings
definition
with
of the state code too, is what our
with
attorney is telling
Jamesport
us.
Civic associations, and to explain what they were doing. And I think that might be
Yeah,
why,
I don't-
because they reached out to them. And I'm not one for spot zoning, but this is, again, if we don't like something, you want to spot zone this one location now to
No.
stop it.
How is
And I
this?
think that if it's in our code now, they should be able to follow the code, and then if we change it, it's to change it for other subsequent people.
So allow the loophole to remain.
And I'm from Jamesport. I've only been there for many years, and almost everybody except, a few here are supporting it. I really don't know anyone that's not supporting it. They don't have a problem with it. They know the history of it. They don't, you know.
Yeah, we know the history.
But that's why we don't want to single out a project and write a code just to stop
It's
the
not.
project.
It's just
And
that
that's just not the
if you're
intent of this
you're
board.
looking to change the breezeway definition because you know that
Well,
it's
that
not a
moving
valid.
forward, but you're targeting this project.
I'm saying this is what it's example of your current definition
And
could create. And the problem with that
Why is
is
it
that
bad
in the definition, it automatically makes two buildings one. So they could technically take that house in the front, have a, however long, 500-foot fake breezeway, cover it with plexiglass with roads going through it, and call it a breezeway, and make those three buildings one structure under your current code.
But you gotta
And so
realize, we were not here when this code was approved and drawn up.
I
Our
realize
code-
that.
All our codes have to be looked at, but the expense, or, to have someone go over all our codes and to explain to us, it's gonna take time.
But we
And
pointed
that's
this
what-
one out.
That's what we intend to do, is look at these codes and not hire someone, but us look at them and make changes where we feel appropriate and have public hearings. And I assume this, it's gonna have a public hearing through planning.
But I think the main issue is, this is a family-owned business. There's been no public outcry except for the, a few people that show up at the board meeting. I can't tell you the number of emails that I've gotten from the citizens of this town supporting this project. I've had, as I said, people in the Civic Association tell us, no, this is probably a good way to handle this situation. So I don't see where, I understand you don't like it, but,
It's not even just that.
But I don't understand.
I'll say this, I think RIVERHEAD does have to look at their definitions. I think that's not a breezeway. It's not. It's really not. And whether it affects Jared Hawkins or not, it's something we should look at it, be more sensible. In Southold, I think their definition is what a breezeway is. It's breezeway is between a garage and a house or whatever. It's defined as a certain size and certain purpose, not just, that is kind of ridiculous. So I think the town has to look at it, not to circumvent or to cut off anything that's going on now, but it certainly is
It's something we have
ridiculous.
to look at.
Yeah, the definition's ridiculous.
I agree, the whole
Right.
code has to be looked at.
But if the breezeway definition were reasonable, this would never be an issue, and they would have had to abide by the code. So it is an attempt to circumvent the code that this board was aware of for 4 months.
In your opinion?
Yes.
In the opinion of the
and a lot of-
majority of the people from Jamesport that have contacted me, it is not an attempt to circumvent the code.
They know the
It is
technical
a-
aspects of this?
It is an attempt to correct a bad situation. We didn't issue the building permit. I wasn't in office when the building permit for the barn was created. I don't know what the circumstances were. It's a good business, and people have, very many people in the community have supported them. So I don't see a big public outcry against this breezeway.
And I believe our attorney just said that our code as it exists today mimics the state code definition of breezeway.
The state code says that the breezeway connects two buildings, it's one structure.
Right, well, then we could connect, why don't we just connect the Lupton and Lewis, will all be one building? Come on,
Right.
It's ridiculous.
But we keep following the state code.
I think the state, might say that, but it says more than that, I'm sure.
And they just followed the state code when they wrote this, I assume. Because I guess we weren't here when this was adopted, so,
But you have been here for the last 4 months.
But it is our job as legislators to close loopholes. That's what we do.
So we'll look at it.
And we'll take advantage of it in the future.
We have to look at it and see
We're
what
doing
happens.
Moving forward in the future, yeah.
That's right, Jim. As Jim said, it is the board's job to close loopholes. And once they're brought to your attention to, like with the other case with the wine tasting and variance, the wine tasting craft store, if you wait too long
It could
each
definitely be
time.
used, 100-foot breezeway, connect the garage and the house.
I'm not an architect. I defer to
Yeah,
an
well,
architect.
you can be an architect if you want to be,
I
but
don't know the property, so I don't know if
it's,
going around or if,
Well, I don't think you can even see it from the road.
codes, but they
It's something
certainly are living to the code. What's
As loosely
written
written
now, they're living to.
as loosely written as it is.
That's what
Right,
we
but as you
have to do.
acknowledge, it's not a good definition, and I do believe that it is.
We agree.
But it is what it is.
We agree it's not a good
And you've
definition.
had 4 months to address it, and they're using it to their advantage. And,
Well, let's see,
and
was planning meeting Thursday? Friday, we'll talk about
it's Thursday.
it. So Friday was.
Right,
Friday we'll talk about
exactly.
it.
Yeah, after 4 months, it'll happen just after, and everyone will throw their hands up.
Dominique, you know what? I respectfully disagree. It has not been 4 months.
Yes.
First, you said it was the end of July, so the end of November would be 4 months. And I believe that it was the middle of August when you came to the code revision meeting and you sat, and that was the first time that we ever discussed it. Since then,
No.
the code revision committee meets bi-weekly. Okay?
Yes,
on
we are.
opposite weeks that the town board is not meeting. And the town attorney cannot always attend those meetings because he's called out for litigation or he's called out for other matters. And there were 2 code revision committee meetings over the last 3 months that were missed because the town attorney had other obligations and he could not attend the code revision committee meetings. So the meetings were adjourned for those days. So, you know, I tell you that as a government elected official, we do our best to stay on top of things, but this is a reaction to an application that was filed, and do we scurry and try and get something adopted quickly that may not be in the best interest of all the residents of the town of Riverhead to be reactive to a single application that's been filed, or do we look at it very carefully and look at all other town codes to make sure that the one that we're adopting is the best one that fits our town?
Okay, first I must say it was 4 months ago. I talked to Jim, I have a record, I have the email, and it was July, and back that out, it's 4 months. And second, I spoke to Kazakevich multiple times. I must have talked to him at least 3 times.
Yeah, I know, I was cut out of the email chain.
The last time was about 2 weeks ago.
Dominic,
And I just want to say, at that time, he hadn't done anything.
But
So
you're assuming
that's
that your group, the RNPC, represents the entire town's views on this, and I,
Didn't say
for
it did.
one, will tell you that, and I'll say it again, this is a family-owned business. I received flooded with emails supporting this business from Jamesport residents, Aquabog residents, Riverhead residents, and spoke to civic leaders, and they didn't necessarily have a problem with it. So you're making this assumption that there's a huge problem here, and I don't know that there is, and that's what we'll go to public hearing on.
I'm finished. Thank you.
Thank you. Hundreds would be, that, I was never flooded with more emails than the Jedediah. They got some base.
I guess I'm the prime devil here regarding Jedediah.
I would never call you that.
Oh, thank you. But I do support Jedediah's. I've gone over there within the past couple of weeks to eat. Keith and I, you know, speak to each other a lot. You know, we've discussed the situation. And I can understand why people, you know, would feel that, you know, this is a good operation. And the way things are going now, it is. I'm perfectly, you know, satisfied with what they're doing. But I didn't appreciate getting blasted out of my bed on a Thursday night in September when they had an outdoor wedding. I'm sick of coming to them, you know, about one thing after another, whether they're parking in a residential lot, whether they're having, you know, an extension of outdoor weddings. Now with the barn, which every week is used as an exhibition center when it's supposed to be storage. You know, I'll cut anybody a little slack when it goes over and over again. And, you know, that night, and to this day, I don't have air conditioning in the house, so I heard everything that was going on over there. Maybe other people, you know, had their air conditioning on or weren't around or whatever. But, you know, there was a problem there, and I'm just concerned that we don't digress back to that.
Oh,
That
and
they
I
don't come
agree.
up with some other, you know, grand scheme of things.
If there's sound problems and things like that, then you call the police, you call code enforcement, and we'll enforce the code. But it, you know, it's interesting because this was done, this line was changed, and I think you were in office at the time, or an appointed official. This line to bring the Jedediah, to give them the zoning, was changed. It might have predated you. It might have been Jill, actually. But it was, but the community asked for it.
Yes,
They
they
asked
wanted-
to move this line
Right.
to capture this house.
Because I think the community believed they were getting a bed and breakfast, which a country inn we could still live with under the definition, but we didn't think a catering hall was coming there.
Well,
Still love it.
And, you know, no matter how good Keith is, if somebody buys it after him and says, well, all these weddings were here and we've had an experience and track history, why can't we just do that and more? this is what, you know,
But
what turns me into a devil.
You gotta realize too, with an open tent, you're gonna get more sound than you will with it being enclosed in a building.
Right.
So, again, you're not gonna get the sounds that you're getting from an open tent, in a closed building. So, if it does, like, just what I said, call the police department, code enforcement, and they'll come down and they'll look at the sound on the street and see if it's higher than what our code calls for. And summonses can be issued. So, I mean, if that happens, but the idea was to get rid of the tent, because everybody was complaining about the tent.
Right.
That the noise was so long. And we did limit the amount of weddings that they could have underneath that tent to get it down. Now they want to put it inside a building, which would lower the sound even more. And I don't know, like it says, I have not got any phone calls or emails from residents that are against this, other than the ones that show up at the town board meeting, and ones like you live right across the street.
Right.
So you would be affected, but the neighbors on each side would be affected, too. So, I mean, you know, I just feel that, you know, our code is our code. And if they build to our code, we should go forward and let them. If the code has to be changed, we will change it for subsequent uses after it. And that's what happens. Usually somebody doesn't like something, so when someone does it, they come and the code is changed after it. And basically that's what happens. We're looking at it. It's in the front of the code revision, and we'll look at it and see what has to be changed in the code. We can make it stricter than the state, but long time ago, it was voted on to adopt the state building code, and that's what they did. So we're just gonna try to make it a little stricter, that's all.
Right.
All right, and we'll see what happens.
And by the way, the neighbors on one side are a group home and a rental home, and on the other side is owned by one of the owners of the inn, so you probably wouldn't be hearing
Well, I
from
don't
them
know who
anyway.
owns any of that property up there.
Well, I'm telling you won't.
So, I mean, you know,
Knox.
those two, huh? I'm
Oh,
just
you're not
saying
from
that.
there.
Yeah.
I appreciate you're dealing with this.
You know?
Right now, there have been no more outdoor weddings for the past year there.
Yeah.
So
I mean, this
we're
is
all,
it.
you know,
I mean,
on
I
good
think they're
handshaking
trying to
terms with
cooperate
it. So.
with the community because of the outcry with the outdoor weddings and the sound. And I think this is just one more piece of that, to if they have weddings, to move it inside and cut the noise down a little bit more. That's what I think.
Okay. Thank you all.
Thank you.
They've been doing damage control since I got there.
Hi, Angela.
I just think there needs to be some clarification. As a member of the Jamesport South Jamesport Civic Association, I did meet with you, and the president, Georgette Keller, met
Oh,
with
I
you.
never
and-
said who it was.
Well, then that's okay. In August, on that meeting, and during that meeting, we shared with you the fact that as a civic association, and as individuals in the community, we had supported the restoration of a magnificent structure in our community. We had not opposed the extension of a commercial zone use district into a residential, clearly residential area along the time there, but our concern was for the continuation of expansion of things they wanted to do. Many of us, as a member of that community, I went to that building during all phases of its restoration, was invited in to see it. And they were talking about at one point of being sort of the residential wing for weddings that were going to be up at the Jamesport Manor Inn. Never, ever was discussed by the principals at that time, and the principals have changed in the partnerships there, by the principals there that they were going to become a catering hall. And the approvals of people in the area, in Jamesport and South Jamesport, is for that Victorian-era structure, for the Jamesport Inn. It is not for this twigs and plastic 150-foot breezeway. I do not believe you have received, Mr. Gabrielson, emails or talk with people who say they specifically support the breezeway.
I did
don't
not
believe.
say I got emails. I
You
said by being a member of the community, and believe me, I know what's going on a lot, so do you, and I've had nobody against it. Most people said just
People
it's a
supporting
good
the
deal.
breezeway specifically.
Supporting them
They
moving
support
on.
the Jamesport Manor Inn.
Well,
We,
they
as
know
a
the
civic,
details,
said
kinda like
that we had
expansion
met
and
with
all.
them and worked with. I believe that's a misrepresentation, Mr. Gabrielson. That's all I'm saying.
Well, that's
Is
your
that I don't
opinion.
think that's my opinion.
Exactly.
And it's
I think you're your
No, I'm not
interpretation is
I'm not
well, I'm saying it is.
misrepresenting
You said I
anything.
am, so we're even. All right,
No,
go ahead.
So it's a game of points, isn't it?
Yes.
Wonderful.
Oh,
I thought
It's,
that-
but the thing is that when we met with you, Mr. Walter, what we did was we discussed our concerns. We also discussed the fact that we had met with Mr. Luce, and we were willing to work. We had done things on how far the noise traveled. We did noise tests. We did all of this. And then we came to a public hearing in which they were appealing on some application here, only to have their legal counsel call us global terrorists. Okay. We have, for a long time, felt that that structure should be there, even though years ago Leroy Barnes wanted to tear it down because it was a safety hazard. Okay, that's what started the whole idea, the concept for doing renovation. Told the original owners that it was going to tear down. It was a safety hazard in the community. It had been in our community for a long time. But I think the concept of this breezeway, whether your current definition allows for it or not, the way in which it is being structured, which is that it is not a continuous structure. It doesn't have to be totally enclosed, but it has a roadway that's going to be built in it that has to allow for emergency vehicles, fire trucks, delivery trucks, as well as vehicles to come in and park in that. I don't think that you really have a breezeway. And that will be something the planning board can take up.
What's
That's
your
something
opinion about, and I didn't mean to misrepresent our meeting, I thought your opinion in the meeting was that while it wasn't the greatest solution, it was somewhat acceptable to do it this way, but it seems silly. I mean, I'm paraphrasing.
It just seemed at that time, I mean, the thing is that we presented to you for the first time, I think you saw, the
I gave it to
architectural
Dominique.
renderings, not what Dominique had, but it was a smaller one, the plans for that had come through the Landmarks Preservation Commission, okay, on that, and just, talked about the ridiculousness of having a 150-foot breezeway. I mean, I know the definition, the state definition talks breezeway as a structure that connects two buildings, but I don't think the framers of that ever thought that you were going to have a 50-foot, a 75-foot, a 150-foot structure to connect two buildings. I don't think there's a structure in the state of New York, two buildings that have been connected by a breezeway, with the exception of a home up on Soundview Drive here in Riverhead. They do have, I think it's a 35-foot breezeway. And also Mr. Andruskevich was going to do one for his garage in in Jamesport to attach there, but he flew under the radar with that one. Yeah, there was a
What do you
public
think
hearing
the
on that one,
solution
and
is?
this has actually come up. I think the
Should we
solution for
allow
them
country
is
into
to...
two buildings? Or?
I think they need if you look at, first of all, historically, the barn doesn't fit in with the building there. You have a Victorian era restoration. I think that they should have to go and make a go with what they have at this particular point in time. Because even with, let's say the breezeway is acceptable, it's a great thing to do. It is not a formula for economic success. There's no guarantee that they are going to succeed.
No.
And that's what they're basing this on. They need this in order to
Yeah, but
succeed.
that's their decision as a business. It's not yours to tell them how to run their business.
I'm not telling them how to run their
Well,
business.
I'm saying if they feel it is, that's their risk.
I'm not saying
That
it, but
doesn't-
you're
that
going to be
doesn't become
making
a
a
negative.
decision. They're coming to you and saying to be economically viable, we need to be able to do this.
Exactly.
And you're saying, okay, you're saying that there's a formula for success for businesses. You are, and I thought all of you were fiscal conservatives. You're
Exactly.
giving government bailout to local businesses.
No,
it's
the
not
code provides for it,
being
Angela.
business friendly,
You're getting off
Jody. No, it's not.
The code
you are
provides
giving,
for it. We are not giving a bailout.
Yes,
The
you are.
code
If you
allows
go
them
ahead
to
and
do
if you
it.
go ahead and allow for this, you asked me a question, Sean. I personally believe it should be left the way it is, and they need to develop means in which they can accrue more monies.
But Angela,
That's all.
too,
I mean, for example, they're closed for business 3 days out of a week. How do you become economically viable? If you close, you don't run your business. That's a business decision. That's their right, Mr. Gabrielson. I understand that. But then don't come to government and ask for handouts.
before they get their CO,
It's not a
the fire department has to sign off, and a fire marshal has to sign off, that if that goes on fire, they can get the fire trucks around, and they can fight that fire. So they have to sign off that these fire
But they're
trucks
designing
can
it
get
so that
around
the
to
fire
fight
trucks
that
can
fire.
go through. They have what's called the knuckle. Have you seen that?
It's going to
Construction
be an
there?
interesting breezeway is what I'm gathering.
Right.
But you know what the most amazing thing about this scenario is that the community got tired of seeing an eyesore of a building and they wanted to see it fixed up. So they extended the line in the rural corridor to allow for this building to be fixed up. The master plan essentially spot zoned this property and the Manor Inn on Manor Lane to allow for these buildings to be fixed
Not the
up
Manor Inn.
rather
No,
than
didn't do
just
that,
being
Jody.
left a residential structure. If it was a residential structure as per the code without giving special allowances, then it would simply be a residential
It would have been
structure and we
torn
wouldn't
down,
be here
Jody.
today.
It would have been torn down. The
Okay.
building would have been destroyed, and all you would have is their workforce
So-
housing unit
So
in the front on the
master plan
property.
was crafted to fix this house. And the supervisor says this house was captured into the rural corridor.
Correct.
It's the only line in the rural corridor that extends out and actually captures this property. The master plan was crafted so that this house could be renovated, and now the house is renovated.
No, the master plan, Jody, you have your facts wrong. The master plan was not crafted to have this house captured into the rural corridor. The master plan was passed in 2003, and then there was an amendment to extend the
Right.
rural corridor down.
Yes.
So the master plan was not crafted to do that. You're incorrect.
Okay, so then it must have been a reaction when it didn't capture it in 2003, and the community said, hey, let's draw the line around this house
We
so that
did
we
not.
can
The
include
proposal
it.
was made to us, and we said we do not oppose it
Okay.
to save the structure.
But
We
nobody
did not come
realized
to the
at
town
that
board.
time, when an amendment was cast to bring this house into this corridor, that this possibly could happen.
That's correct,
So
John.
it wasn't researched. Now that
We
it
never
is
thought we were
happening,
going- we never
now
thought
the
we were gonna get a
community said,
catering
"Well,
hall."
we don't want this to happen, but that was that's a consequence of what happened when the line was extended.
Right, the safeguards were not put in place.
Well, you also have, the fact of the matter also is that you have an inn with a restaurant that's an accessory use. By building this and joining two buildings there, they're allowed to expand their restaurant, but they're still going to be doing catering, which is an accessory to restaurant, not an accessory to an inn. So there are problems all along with this. Yes, as a community, we said yes, and it's kind of like we did it, and now we're getting kicked in the ass.
Well, that's the problem. It morphed into something more than you realized it would
That's
be
right.
when you
That's
did
it.
it.
See, the same thing has happened at the other end of our town when our master plan was everybody wanted to reduce it, so they said, okay, this is great. But now, see, we reduced it, but the master plan, now things are being built there that coincide with that master plan, and they don't want it. So, I mean, these are the consequences.
That's the reason why the state requires towns to review master plans every 2 years.
And we're doing it. All right, let's hear from, let's talk about something different besides.
I got a couple of different things for you.
What do you got?
First question is, how long do the politicians have to take their signs off the roads? And if they don't take them off in a certain amount of time, do they get
I
fined?
think it's 30 days, but, I think it's 30 days, but a lot of ours are down. Why is it?
Diane would know.
Well, there's quite a few of Angie Carpenter's still up.
Oh, Angie Cole. Oh, well, that's
I
okay.
instructed,
I got
asked
one left. I gotta
Diane
go pick
not
up
to
that.
give back any of their
But I didn't take the money.
money.
Yeah, it's in
You
the
didn't
clerk,
take
it's
it?
in the building
Building
department.
department took it.
All right, well, okay, well,
I took all mine down the next day
everyone who's
myself.
Might have been a
town
couple
clerk
of
can give you checks.
No, that's what Barbara was doing. She's up there.
Okay.
Oh, okay,
Next
so you
subject.
changed that.
Good.
Next subject.
I will sell,
Until all these signs
I've been
are up, I
taking them
don't
down
give
too,
up.
as I see, and that doesn't matter
Was
whether
that
they're
really your question?
Excuse me?
Cardinale or Carpenters, I see
The
them, I'll
next,
take them
the
down.
next subject is there's an increasing number of out-of-state plates in the town of Riverhead. If you go up to Best Jet on a Sunday,
Ooh, yeah.
okay,
Go down Official Avenue.
yes, and there's Riverside Drive, 1 block away from here, South Carolina, okay, we've got to do something about it.
Sal, I agree.
Pennsylvania.
Our state law says that when you drive, each state has their different liability laws as far as driving a car. The state of New York says when you drive in the state of New York, you have to have liability that covers the other driver and other states like Idaho, Florida, you don't need any liability. All you need is collision. So they get their plates down there and they drive up in New York. We should, and our police department should stop these people. And they have plastic over their license plates. In the state of New York, you're not supposed to have plastic on your license plate. So if you have plastic on your license plate, you can stop that car and ask for their insurance stuff. And if they don't comply with New York state law, right, then they should be issued a summons and their car should be
Confiscated?
impounded till law
That's what they
calls
did
for
in
that.
Texas.
I agree.
That's what they did in Texas.
I agree.
Yes,
They pull them
I
over,
agree.
they ask for insurance.
Is your complaint the insurance? Is that what your complaint is? or
Well,
is that-
that's
you also
that's
have
one of
30
my
If
concerns.
you live in New York,
I mean,
this is your
one
majority state, you have 30 days to re-register. in
one
New York.
concern is
They're-
the
but
fact
they're
that
driving here for years.
I know one car that's in town at least 2 years and still has South Carolina
You know,
plates.
I agree with you. I agree.
And you know
Okay.
what, when I brought that up to the chief, he said, how do we know that they didn't drive back to their state for a couple days and then come back?
It's a case you can't,
Well-
unless you're
Well, if they're
watching
earning-
the car.
if they're
Can
earning
can
that
we
much-
at least stop them and check for insurance? And if they don't have insurance,
They're gainfully employed in the state of New York. Their residence has to be the state of New York because they have to pay taxes to the state of New York.
I will talk to the
All
police
right.
commissioner,
it's
police chief
it's a
about it.
problem and it's getting worse.
And I
Well,
agree
we've got-
100% with you, Sal.
Yeah,
I
I'm not-
agree with
I'm
you.
not sure their license.
Third subject, you're gonna like this one.
It's
God.
better
Okay.
than this one? 'Cause
Yes, better than this one. I haven't brought this up in a long time.
Oh,
30 years of inaction by
Legal
the
journey.
town boards, okay, have resulted in no townwide reassessment. One-third of the
Al, I'm
taxpayers,
never gonna do that.
one-third of the taxpayers in Riverhead are getting screwed by the another one-third of the taxpayers who aren't paying enough, okay, and one-third are paying just right. I got that number from the assessor. One-third would stay the same, one-third would go up, and one-third would go down. So
Sal,
one-third is screwing
we
one-third.
had this conversation, and I will tell you
I don't know what third I
publicly
am.
again.
I know what I feel like.
Welcome,
And I don't know where I
stranger.
am in the picture. It's just a concern because I've
I
seen
will
the
never
town.
vote as a town supervisor for reassessment. Never, 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 never. If the state of New York in their archaic assessment system wants to reassess all the towns, they're welcome to come and reassess us, pay for it and do it themselves. Let me put it again. I will not support it. And
You've
here's-
said that before.
And here's one of the reasons, because if you look at a guy like me, I live in a 1,400 square foot ranch. I bought my office, I bought an old building because I knew what the taxes. I know my ranch is what the taxes. I don't live in Meadowcrest, I don't live in some of the bigger houses, because I know what my taxes are. So why? Because I was frugal and bought a small house that was built a long time ago, should I worry about my taxes going up?
Well,
When you buy a big house, you know what your taxes are. That's part
Right.
of
But
what
look
you
at
have to
look
pay.
at the repercussions from not doing it. The school district has problems between us and Southampton because we assess one way, they assess another. Okay? I've seen you settle numerous lawsuits from commercial properties because of the no assessments. Okay? And the only way you're gonna straighten that out is
That's different. The commercial projects get assessed by income approach. They're not assessed like a house.
But if you
And
reassessed-
if you look at our new residential or equalization rate, and I check these things and I see them all the time, we're pretty darn close. I'm going to tell you, I don't think it's a third, and a third. You're pretty.
I
darn
got that
close.
right from the assessor.
Yeah, but that's anecdotal. When you sit down and look at how many SCAR cases they actually lose, that's real. We lose
Right.
very few.
And I can tell you that in the town of Southampton, when they did the townwide reassessment a few years ago, that they spend a lot of time trying to keep those, to uphold those assessments, and they're constantly grieved, and they're constantly paying people to go and sit at the hearings and listen to the grievances, and then the grievances go back. I mean, I know of a particular piece of property that was upzoned to $400,000, and every 2 years, they went in and they grieved it, and they got it down to $100,000, which was what the original assessment was. But it cost the town a lot of money, not only to do the townwide reassessment, and I'm not talking about a couple $100,000, I'm talking about a few $1 million to do a townwide reassessment, and then to pay the people to actually go in and uphold those assessment values. It's a very expensive procedure.
She's
Oh, I
never doing it
understand.
either.
I know it's expensive.
But
All right,
now,
we got
the
it.
problem is these districts are overlapping on town lines.
St. Jelly.
The same thing out in Wading River, we have the Shoreham District overlapping Brookhaven and Riverhead. Out in Laurel, we have the Laurel District overlapping in Southold and Riverhead. and our school district, Riverhead, overlapping Southampton and Brookhaven. But you know, they're the ones that these lines were drawn years ago, so they have to assess and get their money is how each town does their assessments. And that could be hard, but that's the way life is today.
I'll
And
close,
we
I'll
gotta
close
live
with
it.
one statement, John.
Huh?
My understanding is state law says you must reassess every so often, and we haven't reassessed in 30 years.
Yes, so when the state comes down from on high in litigation. No way, man, never gonna happen. Never, 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 never.
Got it.
Thanks, Sal. Did you get that? All right. Yes.
90 seconds. Just 2 points. Phil Barbado, I'm a resident of.
I know, I handed you stuff at the post office. Do you have,
Yes.
you had that free pen work?
That pen works fantastic.
I have another one here.
Great.
Does it have ink in it?
I bought better ones, they
Go ahead.
actually work.
My 90 seconds hasn't started yet.
Well, we haven't been sticking to it.
I live about midway between the Manor Inn and Jedediah Hawkins, two facilities that would love to be east wind east. And they're gonna
Did
do
we
it
connect them with the breezeway?
One cockamamie approval after another. I just think it's time for some common sense. A 150-foot covered walkway with a hole in it that you can drive a truck through, 20-foot wide and 12-foot high. I'm sorry, ladies and gentlemen, that is not a breezeway. And if you come down and say, I'm sorry, it's not a breezeway, no court in the world is going to complain about that. So it's just common sense.
Well, we don't
It
know,
doesn't-
it's one judge that complains.
Yeah,
We
I
have
know.
one judge that
So you can go over his head too, and go to an appeal. I mean, somebody's got to stand up here. This thing is going to turn into a big catering hall. The second point is, what's to prevent that facility or any other country inn from building another barn for storage and then connecting it with a 150-foot covered walkway and doubling the size of their inn overnight?
No,
Because
if
we're
we
gonna
change
change
our
the code.
code,
Oh,
if we
you're
change
not
our
gonna
code,
Well, if you're gonna
then
change it, then
it
don't
can't
do it in
happen
the first
again
place, is
if
what
we
I'm saying.
change it.
That's all. If your intention is that you don't want this to happen, then don't let it happen in the first place. The third point I have is, you made the reference, Ms. Giglio, that the Jamesport Manor Inn was a master plan thing.
It
That's
was
not what happened.
residentially zoned.
It's in the agricultural protection zone.
It's supposed to be a house. Residences
And
are the
they
only
went to the
things that
zoning
are
board of
approved in the
appeals.
APZ,
They went to the zoning board of appeals.
right?
And they got the zoning board of appeals to say, well, they never intended to allow that pre-existing non-conforming use to lapse, even though it had for 3 years or more.
With the support of the community, yes.
No.
That's not Jedediah Hawkins.
No,
It's
the community
Jamesport Manor.
didn't-
All I'm saying is,
Jamesport
it
Manor.
wasn't a master plan issue,
No,
it
it's
was
Jamesport
a,
Manor.
No, I
it was
know.
a zoning board of appeals mess up, that's all I'm saying.
But the community didn't support that being turned back into a restaurant after having been abandoned for 5 years, when it should have been, after abandoned for 5 years, converted to a residence, which is the only thing that's allowed in the APZ. Restaurants are not. And
When
they
you
went to
say
the zoning board of
community,
appeals.
When you say community, I think you're referring to the friends of the owners who
Who?
came and said that they were in favor of it. The rest of us who actually lived there were not in favor.
Okay, so you did show up at the meeting and say, no, you were against, oh, right, yes, there was the big appeal.
Okay.
Absolutely, I'm sorry.
What else we got? It's late.
I make a motion, we adjourn the town board. meeting.
All in favor, aye.
Right.
Jimmy's like, out the door.
He's gone.
Oh, I told my wife, I said,
I'd like to
"Be
duck
home
my
by
dog.
9 o'clock." There's not a lot on.
Better